now the podcast everybody's been asking for. We're going to do something a little different today, a 90-minute statistical deep dive into the game at Port Vale. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot, speaking Black Man, Twitter, Ink Gunner. That's right. So today a little different. We're going to spend 90 minutes digging into all of the data, all of the nooks and crannies. No, I'm kidding. Can you imagine? Siri, how do I get rid of my audience? That would be the thing. And in fact, my iPhone was about to give me the answer to that, but I don't want the answer to that. I want to keep our audience. And so we will do some on the Port Vale game. We will do plenty on the Newcastle game. We will talk about the Saliba renewal for once. Recording slightly later has played into our hands. Although I understand Andrew got the news mid-recording. I haven't made it through the Arscast just yet, but apparently he finds out mid-recording. And I am curious to hear the delight in his voice. You will hear the delight in ours. So we'll talk about all that maybe briefly on the draw. We have Brighton in the next round of the League Cup. Some interesting and tasty League Cup draws for the next round. So it'll be a little more interesting maybe than this round was. So we're going to talk about all of that. And we may get to invoke the phrase everybody loves, must win. Is it a must win? Oh, I can't wait to hear the answer to that. Tomorrow is Friday. And later in the day, you would call it like Friday night. And if you were to do a podcast in that time frame, and do it live, you might call it Friday Night Clive. And we're going to have a Friday Night Clive. Tomorrow, I've got some games for Clive to play. It's going to be very fun, and I would love to have you join. We did maybe one of the most ebullient instant reactions we've done in a long time with Tim from the ground yesterday for the Port Vale game. We've done power rankings. We did a rewatch of the City game, and we started that with a mini pod. Usually when we do rewatches, we'll do like a 30-minute mini pod and then jump into the rewatch. We put the game on the screen. We look at it. We watch it again. We'd love to have you check that out, please. But if you can't check that out, the important thing is that you're checking this out, and we appreciate you for doing that. So with all of the preamble out of the way, now we can do the post-amble. You never hear that, do you? You never hear it's never the amble or the post-amble. It's just the preamble. Go figure. Here to do the amble with me is Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello, look.
And Paul. Hello, Paul.
Woohoo!
I know Tim is an important part of our group. In case you don't know, he's had some home improvement, home fixing, basically projects running that were not scheduled, and that I'm sure he would prefer not to have had to do, but he's had to do them, and it's created a disruption at home. So not been able to record, but as I understand it, today is the final day of work, so he will be back in the swing of things with us, and we wish Tim the best. We love him, and we will certainly talk to him on a future pod very, very soon. So let's start with the big news of the day, and that is the Saliba contract. Clive, what's your take on Saliba signing up till 2030?
Should have been 2031, shouldn't it? Really? Come on, am I joking?
He's going to Madrid in 2029, and I'm upset about it. How about you?
Yeah, what's not to like, right? So it's really good, and it's an indication that not everything is going bad at Arsenal Football Club. Maybe the players.
I'll tell you this much, Clive. Kanate just doubled his subscription to Duolingo. He's learning his Spanish extra fast after this news came out.
Or Mark Gay. You never know, right? You never know what happens in life, And it's not a complete surprise because the drums have been saying for a while that he's been happy, and he said it himself. So it's really nice, isn't it? Because we all know the final two players that need to be signed up. And we're all pretty confident that they're going to get signed up. But it's still nice to see it. And for me, the link between the players and the club and the manager and the coaches is the thing that really drives us. And if they still believe in where we're going as a club, it's a positive sign, right? We can debate substitutions, we can debate starting 11s, we can debate play style, everything like that. But if the players are behind what's going on, that's good, right? And we have I think it's really good. Another thing, he's giving some of his best years to Arsenal, isn't he? He's been involved in us for a long time now, and these careers they're quite short. And he's saying, "Nah, I'm staying here." Right? So that's really positive. In our recent history, that hasn't always been the case, has it?
No, and I think he loves obviously playing with Gabriel Magalhaes. That duo is going to be together for a while. Next up would be Saka, and I imagine that'll only be a matter of time. And Paul, I think there's an important thing to take from this signing. there's a lot of angst around Arsenal right now. And I get it. In the entire era of us being at the Emirates post-Invincible, this is the best we've been and the closest we've been to really, really thinking we could win something. And there's so much eagerness to do it and so much frustration that we've just fallen short for whatever reason you want to point to, whatever culpability you want to ascribe to this person or that person. It's the proximity to success that's giving us this angst. And so it's hard to tune out the noise sometimes, but the easiest way to tune out the noise is just to look at the players, right? Are the players bought in? Are they committed? And are they staying? And I think there's a misunderstanding. People say, players are only going to stay if you're winning things. I don't think that's true. I mean, Trent was winning things at Liverpool. He went to Real Madrid. Players leave clubs that are winning things. But I do think the players have to believe there's an ambition to win things and that you're in the thick of the competition, right? We lost players when we moved to the Emirates to clubs that were competing to really win things, because I think there was an acknowledgement that we were not acting as a club that wanted to really push for the biggest trophies. But these contract renewals, I think, are an indication that within the club, there's serenity, there's joy, there's a pleasure at the project and what they're doing, but also a real fundamental belief that the club is doing its best to win things and is in position to potentially win things. So it's wonderful that Saliba is staying. That's important. But as Clive always says, there's always a player. There's always another player. If we lost Saliba, it'd be heartbreaking. You'd find another player. Hell, we have Mascara, who's obviously already better than him. Kidding. But do you agree that the more important thing is that these contract renewals indicate what those closest inside the club believe about the project that's ongoing?
I don't know if I believe that specifically. I think I do.
I took a long time to set it up, Paul. The
You
least
did.
you could do is just agree with it.
And I think I'm going to wander in that direction.
Okay.
You said the word wander.
Yeah. Let's go for a wander together, Paul.
Like my first thought as I listen to Clive is, he's a lot more sanguine about, now I use sanguine incorrectly, but I like the way I use it. I'm a lot more sanguine about, or he's a lot more sanguine about this than I am. Obviously Clive gets to swim in the water around the club a little closer than I do. So, it's in his mind. He's feeling the vibes. But like, I woke up this morning and went, I don't know what I went, but I'm going to say I went, holy moly. I think this is huge. I don't know how you measure this, but he must be in our top two most ambitious and most sought after players at the club. And the other one, Bukayo Saka, if we don't keep him for his career, that's on us, right? And it's not that he doesn't want ambition and that he doesn't want the contracts, and he does, and he should get them. But you've got a really good shot if you don't screw up, and you're doing all the right things as a club of keeping Bukayo Saka. That isn't necessarily the case with William Saliba. So it kind of blows my mind to wake up and find out, it's not a 3+1, a 2+1, a 1+1 as he takes the money but keeps his options, that he's gone for what I understand is a 4+1, a 5, whatever, is huge. And as you say, Elliot, it's got apart from the fact you could say he's one of the two most important players at the club, the biggest talents, the brightest futures. Apart from that, it has this broader implication for the club, for every other player around the club. Hand of Ozil had shared that Saliba and Gabriel have been talking over the summer about how they both want to stay with the club, commit to the club, win at the club, which is, that's the most beautiful love story on the planet for me by a mile. I love Gabriel.
I'm sure your wife
Magalhaes.
will appreciate hearing that played back, by the way.
Well, I'm sure she feels the same way, to be quite honest.
Well, then you married the right woman.
French. William Saliba's from Saint Etienne, her home club, her homeland. It's just absolutely beautiful, huge, beyond what I could have expected. And when you think of where the Saliba story came from, the kind of early days, the kind of, at least from where we saw it, the falling out, the Arteta won't have him, doesn't rate, and how they've built this relationship. And one final thought, think of what it means for Arteta. It gives him 5 more years to learn to coach an attack. Ba-boom. It's a joke.
Ba-boom. Nailed
it's
it.
A joke.
I was a little flip with a comment that I'm going to take back because I don't really agree with it. I sort of made the point. There's always players, but the important thing is that you see that everyone's backing the project inside the club. I don't actually agree. There's always players. I think I've been very clear. I think coaching is important to some extent, but you only win if you have the right talent. And Saliba is in that rare class of talent that there aren't many in the game like him. He's the kind of talent around which you build teams that win things. And so you have to have those pillars. Bukayo Saka is one of those pillars. Declan Rice is one of those pillars. William Saliba is one of those pillars. And those are the players that you have to have because you don't win things absent that. Not every one of the 11 players you put on a pitch has to be best in the world type talent, but you need a few of them. And Saliba's in that group. So we can win things with this. And Clive, I think, again, it's an indication, right? If it was terrible playing for Mikel, or if players felt they were being flogged to death, or if the football wasn't enjoyable, guys like Kai Havertz would be taking a ticket to Germany, or Martinelli, as he slips down the pecking order, would be looking for an exit ramp, or William Saliba would take the trip to the warmer climes and sunnier weather of Spain. But there's no indication of that. So at least from the inside of the club, the behavior of the players themselves is that this is a place players want to be. And by the way, you got another club, Chelsea, where all their players would rather, come across London and play for our team, apparently. So I do think that it's a good. Look, I'm not saying as fans we should care if the players are happy. We should care for winning things, of course. But it's an indicator or a barometer of the confidence level and I think general level of satisfaction with the environment inside the club.
Yeah, particularly for the elite players, because they have choices, don't they? I'm sure his phone's been ringing, his agent's phone been ringing from a particular team in Spain saying, don't sign, we'll come back for you, don't sign. That's the normal trick. And then he decided to sign. And I joking aside, I was a bit sanguine earlier, Paul, you're absolutely right, because I just sort of knew it would happen. But it doesn't dismiss the fact of how important this is, right? And he is a pillar of the team, and it is something that I look for all the time. When people complain about the manager and etc., you know what I do when I'm sitting there in the ground? I look at the players. I look at how they are towards him, towards each other. I look for those relationships. I look really closely at that. And you can see how people work on the pitch. You can look at the kilometres covered. You can see you will soon know if there's a breakdown somewhere if you're looking properly. And it's not based on how you feel about a selection or a substitution. It's based on the people that work together every single day. And if they're on board, I think we have a duty to be on board with them as well, right? And so, and that's how I look at football. You know? So I remember the day with Emery, because I never overly criticise the manager. I look at the game. I remember the day that with Emery, right, and I lost it with him. There was a flash to the bench in Baku, and I looked at the players' faces, and they were no longer having the manager. I knew it right there and then. And that's when I went, well, if they're not having him, we can't have him. Do you know what I mean? And to be honest, we should have stopped him.
How does that measure on the scale of using a magnetic tactics board in the rain at Grimsby Town?
I don't want to go there, right? You can have your Man United stuff. You have your fun. And I do think it's the most important
Clive,
thing.
it's a bit like having 11 giant canaries in the coal mine, isn't it? For how good a manager is doing. Yeah. Like, these aren't kids anymore. These guys aren't they're in the crosshairs of their career, and they're committing to the project. Tells you everything. Like, they're literally strapping themselves to the project, to the manager.
Yeah.
Saka, Saliba, Gabriel, Declan Rice. They're telling
Odegaard.
you.
This
Norgard.
guy. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, mate. This guy is going to be, he is one of the elite centre-backs in the world. And so everybody knows his name. Everybody in an elite club knows his name and would like him to be in their club. So, and I'll tell you now, you guys know, you're wise men. It's a shark tank out there, right? They would take him out of our club if they could in 2 minutes flat. They don't care, don't look back. You know, and so the fact he said, no, this is where I want to be, it should be comforting for everybody today, you know. And But I was pretty confident anyway. But it's still nice to see that message from
Yeah.
David. It's still nice to read it. You woke up and I saw your first tweet this morning, Elliot, and it was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I've been up a bit longer than you, so I'm calmed down now, right? So,
Well, technically,
yeah,
you hadn't been up longer than me in my time zone. In your time zone, you've been longer than me
Exactly.
in my time zone.
It's a bit like Andrew and his podcast. Always half a podcast behind us. Hey, lads.
I'm literally always 6 hours behind you. Yeah, unless I'm with you, in which case sometimes I'm still 6 hours behind you. Look, there's one final angle to this that I just want to reference, and then I think we should get into Port Vale and we'll get into Newcastle. That is, when you have Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice at your club, the generation of English players right behind them want to come to Arsenal because they grow up idolizing Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice, two of the best England players. Maybe the two. Well, maybe the two best actually. I don't know, but they're certainly in that conversation. Jude Bellingham would be there. Harry Kane is sort of aging out of it, but certainly would be there. But two of the best young English players play for Arsenal, and that's going to make other England players want to be at Arsenal. This is a golden generation of French talent. It seems like it's always a golden generation of French talent. Think what Vieira and Henry did to the reputation of Arsenal in France. Every French player who was a young person, every French person who was young in the early 2000s, Arsenal would have been their second club, right?
This Génération d'Or.
Yes, Génération d'Or. That's exactly how I was going to put it. But so the point is, when a William Saliba, who is as good a player as France has, along with Kylian Mbappe at the other end, right, says, I'm committing my career, essentially, the meat of my career to Arsenal, that's only going to do good things for the reputation of the club in France, for the ability to recruit French talent. You have the Spain connection, you have the French connection, you have the English connection, and a lot of ways now that the club can I think, burnish their reputation among players in these critical catchment areas, so to speak. So good for recruitment as well. So a lot of good things happening. It's a great thing. Let's get on to the Port Vale game. And Clive, can I just ask you big picture?
Ooh.
We are in a micro-analysis era of sport generally and football and Arsenal. We do a podcast almost every single day of the week, if you're a patron, about Arsenal. So you're going to analyze, and we're going to analyze this game. But in reality, does this fall into the category of a game that you probably shouldn't zoom in on too much and kind of just happens, and anything you take from it is probably going to be over-analysis just because of the level of the opposition and the intensity of the competition?
Yeah, there's always things you can learn, and I got to go speak my own truth and say, even during this game, I was a little bit edgy about where we were playing on the pitch and how we were playing, but not like to a point where I feared losing or anything like that. But just edgy because I'm watching Arsenal and I'm not there, right? But Tim was there actually, and Tim's voice note I thought was really, really good last night.
It was really good. Yeah.
It reminded you of what this game actually was. It was a training session, right? To get minutes into people, to sharpen up certain people, to learn a few lessons positionally about what we can do with somebody. If you play a certain player in a certain space, does that space get blocked off? You can go through the team. There was a reason to play them all. Ben White needed the minutes. Mosquera needed the minutes. Saliba needed the minutes. Let's be honest, need to sharpen up. To see Miles back on the pitch starting the game, good for his psychology. And Saka needed the minutes. Right? We made 9 changes, but the team looked really strong. Right? He looked really strong. Norgard's first start. Eze, I'll be honest with you, Elliot, and I'm sure you're going to talk about Eze. Starting inside there, it took me a while to work that out, but just wanted him on the ball, and it was really, really good. Lots of rotations. Merino back at centre forward. For me, his second best position in there, and I think he did fine because he rotates out. And it's just nice to see the players play, but actually train, really, and play. They played within themselves consistently. I would have liked it to have been 2-0 sooner, just so I could really enjoy it, But I don't, we weren't under any real threat because they were just holding station. And so, yeah, I think it's more an opportunity to learn a few things rather than conclude a few things and see what the coach is trying to learn from the game at the same time, right? So, there's a few things I got back from people. I sort of said, I must not send out tweets during games because it's the wrong time, right? So I sent out a tweet sort of saying, Just a small request, Arsenal. Can we please just play in the right areas a bit more? You know, and I got some people, loads of people come back and say, yeah, we're boring, we're this, we're that. I got one guy come back and say, Clive, you need to support the club. I thought, flipping now, why am I doing this, right? Don't do this. And but I can't say that's how I felt, right? But that's just a small beer, isn't it? It's just a training session, and we got through it like everybody else did this week.
Yeah. And Mikel was asked about the strength of the English pyramid, and he gave an interesting answer. He said, unbelievable how tough it is. And when you look at last night, Liverpool and Chelsea, Liverpool who had to win it late again because they're contractually obligated to do that, Chelsea who fell behind to Lincoln, how long it took them to actually win the game. You know that you have to expect that if something different happens, great, but you know that you're going to have to really earn the right to win games here. Our next round opponent, Brighton, the only one to really smash their opposition 6-0. Everyone else, it was 2 or it was 2-1, or, you know, the games were a little more even. And I do think the days of going away to these clubs and the pitch isn't good and the players are just sort of there to boss you, but they don't have any footballing skill, like that's kind of gone now. You know, League One is a real league and they can play some real football. But I do think, Paul, and we'll come to individual performances, there's a few I want to call out, but I think getting the early goal was great. But it really, to me, felt like after that, we were very comfortable to just pass it around at the back, and we didn't have a whole lot of urgency to do anything beyond that. You look at this game, we had 81% of the ball. They generated 0.09 expected goals on their 3 shots. And Mikel said we sort of lost control of the game in the second half a little. And while I agree with that, obviously not that much control because they had 1 shot and about 20% of the ball. Do you agree that while it's frustrating to watch Arsenal not have any urgency to go hurt the opposition, that after we got the first goal, it felt a lot like we were managing our way through a game? This is a team that's watched almost a player a game leave to injury. And I'm sure there were players just content to have the ball and make it a low event game, you know?
Yeah. Look, it was a really good blistering, I think. What was it?
9 minutes.
9 minutes. It was really good. Yeah. We were starting to get into patterns, etc., etc. It did kind of, in many ways, spoil the game to go. Clive and I may have been on different emotional arcs. It spoiled it just a little bit, I think, after that, because I don't think the players, to your point, Elliot, decided to take it easy. It's kind of it's a weird collective thing where everybody still wants to be at the races, but like it's what you're feeling on the pitch, the vibes, the kind of just everybody's dialed back 1 or 2%. Like you can't fool the fat man inside you, right? There's a part of you that you can't help it. It just takes you down a step or two, a notch or two, an intensity grade or two, and before you know it, everything's just slightly slower, and like the passing just slowed down, and the automatisms that were budding kind of were lost a little bit. And like I think the value of a game like that is that's what it does. It gets the pod on the right, the triangle on the left, these different setups within the pitch. There's the individual performance, but more important is that individual connect. You know, you had Eze and Martinelli. We talked about this, where like we're always talking about what's going to set Martinelli free. What player in that? Well, if it ain't Eze, I don't know who on the planet it's going to be. So they had time together, and look, they combined beautifully on the goal. It's Martinelli who puts in the cross for Miles Lewis-Skelly to flick
not really
on.
A cross, just a pass, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I never know what to call that pass.
Well,
the one that's not a cutback, a cut across.
Yeah, just stabs it through to him. Little slip ball. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's really clever play between the three of them. And then the rest of the game, I'm not saying it was bad, but that was what they were looking for throughout the game. And you just lose that little bit of intensity. It's what MLS was looking for, to show his attacking props, to show Mikel what he can do when Calafiori's not in the team. He doesn't just defend. He can, and he's done that in the attacking area. That's where he wanted to grow. Eze wants to show what he can do from the left 8th spot. Martinelli wants to show that if you put him on the wing, he doesn't just score through the center. So this is important for players and for sections of the pitch. But to your point, Elliot, despite themselves, we just lose that little bit. And the rest of the game was not quite at the level of that first 7, 8, 9 minutes.
Well, the problem for Eberechi Eze, he's so good at finding little pockets of space between the lines and then in those tight spaces doing something with it. But if no one behind you wants to play between the lines or push the ball centrally, it doesn't matter if you're standing there. Mikel had an interesting comment, some comments about Eze, and we'll talk about the goal in Eze and then a couple other performances I think warrant it, like Ethan and Merino. So on Eberechi Eze, he said, quote, he played very centrally against a team that's obviously with a 5-4-1. They are super compact inside. It's not easy to find spaces, but he is very capable with the ball. You've seen that in another 3 or 4 actions that he's completely through and playing people through. He still needs a little more time with those guys to understand the timings, especially the things that he needs to do. Then actions like that will be more consistent and better for us. In general, very good. There's still a lot more to give, I think. And that's kind of a backhanded compliment in a way. I think that there's some instruction there that clearly Mikel is seeing that Ebbs is learning where to be and how he can influence the game from the position he's being given. Mikel said sometimes he's going to do this from the wide area, sometimes from left or right central spaces. So firstly, Clive, on the goal, I didn't know who had scored it at first because of where he popped up. I'm not used to seeing our sort of left-sided central midfielder pop up in those spaces. I also think it's rare to find a guy whose pulse is 50 when he's striking the ball from the center of the box. It's just the coolest possible finish. What do you make of the goal and then the wider implications of Mikel's comments and what that could mean for Eberechi's role going forward?
Yeah, when I watch Eze play, it just reminds me of Bob Marley, the way he just moves around. You just think he's just in his own time. Lads,
we're jamming.
No, I'm not ready. We're jamming. I'm not ready to receive it yet, but I'll be ready in a minute, all right? And then I roll into space and go like that. I do think you can always learn something from a game, right? So let's take us back one game, shall we? To the game of the year so far, Man City at home, when we all lost our minds. One of the things that showed up in that game, and lots of teams give you the outside spaces. When we go to the outside, that next pass inside, that connection pass needs to be there. Right, and sometimes when it went to Merino in the City game, we got crowded out. Sometimes he got the ball out, right? But we all wanted a little bit more in that connection, a bit more ingenuity in that position. In this game, we had 2 players that can look after the ball in the inside. And so if you think about what's coming up with Newcastle, they create a shape similar to Port Vale. They protect the centre of their pitch, and then they step outside with aggression to go to double up to the wide men. And so you can always gain something for gains. Let me have a look at these 2 in these positions and see if they can connect with the outside players to then help us build attack. So when Newcastle rush over, can I stick the ball through and it goes in, and then from there, they're on the defensive. Can we carry? Can we clip? Can we combine again with a centre forward, etc.? So I thought this was a really interesting experiment. But what did Port Vale do on occasion? They blocked the centre, didn't they? They didn't jump out too much. The League One team can watch all the videos now on tactics, by the way, and they can block the centre. And if they're not bothered, they're trying to protect a thrashing, they're going to stand there. That's exactly what they did, and they stood there and they made it hard for him. And although he got 55 touches in this game, he probably about 15 light for the amount of possession that we had. And I do think a lot of the times we did play around at the back because we could. And I always got touches on this type of thing, Elliot. And when I see Saliba at 135, I'm thinking, whoa, that's a bit heavy.
Yeah.
Could we have just clipped the ball forward a little bit more? So I'm sitting there on the settee going, well, come on, just play forward. And then we play forward. See, I told you, trust our scores. I knew I was right for the previous 80-odd minutes. I knew I was right because you get confirmation, right? And I do think some of what we're doing right now, looking at outside combinations, but also looking to draw people on to go over. And that's why Noni Madueke has looked so good, because he likes that sprint. I was pleased to see Saka going in, going over rather than protecting his hamstring because he's a bit worried. That was a positive, and so this is just a different style of football. So everyone's trying to, I know I keep saying it, but everyone's selecting teams. But I think we need to select our style still at the moment. I think we're still searching for a new style. I think much of the league is more direct. Our goalkeeper's got progressive passing stats that's right up there into the final third, and I think this is where the game is going. Bring it in, then go over, and then get your one-on-ones there. Second ball, suddenly you're facing a back 4, and now you can accelerate. you know. But in this game, let's look at our side connections because Newcastle may drop off. So you have to learn things in every single game. It wasn't super intense, but it was a technical training session, if that makes sense, you know. And I think it's every game is important, Elliot, to me. Every game is important. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry, mate.
I was just going to add, look, how did we get our goal against Man City after, playing it back and around and eventually popped it over the top. Martinelli through with the run in a great spot against the keeper. In the end, it's a bit rope-a-dope, right? Body punches, blah, blah, blah. But you need players who can clip it over the top. Saliba is showing he has that in his locker time and time again. Eze on the pitch. Yeah, Eze's a heads-up, super intelligent player. Where did he knock it over the top from perfectly? From deep, picking it up off the centre-backs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Clive.
I'll just say, it's been in my mind a little while, because if you even look at one of the highlights of last night, ball goes into Max Diamond, clip round the corner first time. Yeah. Right in behind. Remember Calafiori's clip into Gyokeres in behind against Leeds. You see what's happening here? We're pulling people's in and we're clipping it over. Right, so this is why I think
late run, not the first run.
It's not the first run; it's to pull people in. Why are we playing double pivot? To pull people onto us, to clip, and then fast support it. Right, so I'm still learning how we're playing. This is why I'm not overly obsessed and fixated. But there are things developing as the sample size is growing, you know, and this is what's happening with football at the moment. But I do think it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, Sundays is on all our minds. It'd be interesting to see what we do, but I think we've learned a few things in the last week or so. So what game are we going to play? And for me, what's really important, where are we going to play? I think that's really key. Where are we going to play? Are we going to try to control? But we must score that first goal. I know I'm jumping onto Newcastle, but I think it's really important that there is a synergy between the three games, Newcastle, Port Vale, and City. And I think we must bring our learnings into the Newcastle game.
Well, and the irony is, Leo scores the second goal in this game, in exactly the way that I'm sure Mikel envisioned him scoring against City when he picked him. Yep. Except City sank all the way back into their own box, and there was no room for him to run into. And I'm sure he had no expectation of that happening. And certainly the early goal did that. But I'm sure when Leo scored that goal, Mikel's going, "Great, now you do it. This is what I thought you were going to do against City." So, okay, well, the thing with Eze, I'll just say this finally, is it is very clear to me, I think, from Mikel's comments about him and the way he's used him, that the player has to learn us and the manager has to learn him. And there is some of that going on, that the role is evolving. Mikel was asked if he's one of our most versatile attackers. And he said, quote, "Yes. And at the end, what we want to do with him is get him in positions, in spaces, that he can create his magic moments and the difference in the team." Some of that will be from wide areas. Some of that will be from the right or left in relation to the opposition. So, Paul, that says to me that Mikel doesn't have a stick-on role for Eze, but an idea of where he can influence games, and that we're going to have to put him in those positions, and he's going to have to find the way to connect with his teammates, and they're going to have to find the way to connect with him, because I think Mikel sees him the way we all do, right? That magician. The guy who can make the magic moment happen, but he's got to figure out where to be to do that, and the players around him have to figure out where he's going to be to do that,
Yeah, I think that's right. We've seen him in three positions now: left wing, left 8, right 8. I have no doubts that he's going to be fine. He's a super intelligent heads-up player who will make and find connections. It's more the collective. It's not so much him finding the rest of the team. It's everybody understanding. Fair play to Martinelli making that run, but Martinelli has been making those runs all along. Other players need to, he was pre-built for that moment against Man City with Eze. They both were. But other players now need to know that once Eze's on the ball, he's got his heads up. He's looking for the clever thing you do, like an Mbuemo. He's always going to be looking for the clever ball. When we counterattack, we need a different mindset, that every time we counterattack and Eze gets the ball, it's on, guys. It's not going to be one of those that kind of filters out because of the bad ball or because, these are so... No, every time you get the ball and you're counterattacking with Eze, a goal is on. If you make the right run, if you make this clever run, he'll give you the ball. So, like, that's where I think the learning is. It's the rest of the team responding to him. Clive.
No, Paul, I was nodding in agreement. Just to layer on top of that, on the goal, we play the ball inside, but Martinelli doesn't stand still. He runs, he follows his pass, and him following that pass made Eze's defender, who was shielding him, jump out to Martinelli. It's going to be a 1-2, and Eze slips in behind. They go different directions. Bang, side foot in the corner. I think the point I was going to make just on top, Paul, is when you play to him, don't stand still and watch him do 15 step overs, and so he has to pop it back. Move off the ball. So he had multiple options. I think we do this a lot with Saka as well. We give it to him, and we stand there. Well, if we're going to stand there, you might as well sit next to me on the seat. Do you see what I mean? You might as well. Let's move. Let's make sure we can create running options and passing options for them. I think it's very important, because as soon as they have that, I think they become better players.
So, Paul?
Yeah, just a quick one. Look, the thing Eze needs to learn is the off-the-ball stuff, the intensity. I'm not sure he did anything wrong in this game or any of the games he's played for us, but like it's almost a communication thing. He needs to bring that intensity, discipline part of it that makes the manager feel having Eze on the pitch is not a step down when we're without the ball. That he's always on it. He's always clued in. That he's.
Do you think he's trying that, Paul? Do you think he's trying? I think he's trying hard at that. What do you see? What do you see?
Oh, for sure. I mean, what do you need to coach Eze on? Not too much in terms of how he plays the game, right? It'll all be about trying to replicate. What does Odegaard give you? The best Odegaard gives you an incredible creative force and incredible pressing and discipline without the ball. A leader of the... So, like, if you're competing to some degree to be the creative force on the pitch at times with Odegaard, you need to be able to compete with the two things he does, with and without the ball. So, yeah, I would imagine subtly that is the framework they've got for Eze to make him absolutely bulletproof as an Arsenal starter. No doubts, no concerns, is that without the ball, he can match what Odegaard, a version of what Odegaard does on the pitch without the ball.
Then Elliot will get his dream then, won't he, Paul? The dream he's been talking about for a year.
Yeah, 2 10s. Let's talk Ethan for a minute, Clive. This is a chance to watch Ethan play in midfield. Granted, not against the most elite opposition, but we haven't seen tons of that. It's clearly a position that Mikel sees as his future position, and he's learning it. I thought this was a really good performance in that position, and I think you can see Arsenal, whether you want to say, let me step back for 1 second, because I think there are going to be some people who hear the earlier part of this podcast and say, okay, so we're just going to write off our problems as not trying hard against Port Vale. There is clearly an issue for this Arsenal team with central ball progression. There is, and we have to improve it. Now, the opposition gets to do tactics too, and when they're very compact in the center of the pitch, it's going to make it hard. We want to build up around the wide spaces. We want to go in over the top, or we want to get it to the wings. We are not as good as I regard us as needing to be in terms of playing that pass between the lines into the center parts of the pitch, playing inside the block. But if you can't pass it there, you can carry it there. And Ethan certainly can do that. And I thought he did that really well in this game. And for me, Clive, this was a really positive performance from Ethan as a player to help us flow through the thirds. I don't think we flow well yet. I don't think we flow through the thirds well. Ethan, if we're not going to flow through it, will run us through it. He will carry us through it. And I think he did a nice job of that in this game.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're always trying to flow through the thirds anymore. That's what I said earlier. So again, we close our eyes and we have this picture of our favourite game, and it's all passing through the thirds, central progression, out to the wings, get it back, have a shot, or have a cross from the wide areas, little 1-2. Mate, these teams are watching the same films as we're watching, and they've got a 3 narrow and a 3 narrow behind that, and then they're trying to keep the distances tight. So where do you go? You go outside the block, and he can do that, right? He's played time on the right wing, and he spent time in the right 8, right 10. So when he's out there, he looks correct. He looks like, I'm okay here. I can pass it. I can switch inside. He's got a great weight of pass. I love his weight of pass. And he can travel. If it's blocked off, I can beat you, and then I can run away from you. I judge him. We all judge him on shots because we know if he's on target, it's going in. He had a couple blocked in this game, unluckily. Otherwise, he'd have definitely scored. So where is a development opportunity? He said with his coaching hat on. Where is development opportunity? Development opportunity for Ethan. I'm consistent with it. Is engagement. How do I stay engaged in the game? I can't let 5 minutes go past without me having a touch on the ball. I've got to stay engaged. I've got to move people. I've got to hide behind people on their backs, then jump out to receive it at the right time. I must have touches. I must let the game go around me. I must show a personality in there. This is not anybody. I'm not talking about his talent, Elliot, because I want to see more of his talent. This is what I want you to do. You need to have more touches. You need to show. Even if it's just a bounce, I don't care. Bounce, move. Bounce, move again. Get it back. And people will look at your body language.
Clive.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
People look at your body language and say, he's up for it. Can we get it to him? You can't. Eze's 27, right? He's got a CV, right? When he stands still, everyone thinks he's going to wake up soon. Then he does. Right? And we're okay with it. When you're 18, you need to build your CV. You need to build your personality. You need to do it. And I want him to do it. Because if you're in the interior, you need to show. On the outside, it's coming your way. Traditional football, right? You stretch 5 lanes, it's coming to you. It is, isn't it? We know this now, don't we? That's why we understand traditional football. But inside, you got to go get it. You got to go get it. And this is the development opportunity for him. My worry, well, not my worry. The things I want to see is his personality grow to receive the ball. Because when he's on the ball, I have few worries. Do you see what I mean? Now, one thing he has improved is his dueling. I never saw him tackle till this season. Now he's going into contact, he's bouncing people, he's clearing out of his box. These are all great stuff. This sort of stuff you do on loan. But he's doing it in our first team at 18. Do you see what I mean? You go on loan, Paul, and the coach sits down with you and you say to them, what do you want to get in the year? I want him to grow in personality and I want him to be much better off the ball. Can you work and put him in position to do that? And he comes back a year later and he's ready to go. We're doing it in the first team. So we need to accept that. We can't be comparing him
with
to
Emil Smith-Rowe, right?
Exactly that, Paul. He went to RB Leipzig, didn't he? The manager said to him, I don't even care what you do. I just want you to come back a better person, a personality that's grown. So we're doing this in the first team. We have to recognise that. He's not Odegaard, he's not an Eze, but he's developing. And I think it's a really good thing that the club do. I really do think that.
Yeah, let's start to wrap the Port Vale discussion, but I still think we should talk about Merino, maybe Martinelli a little bit, and we need to get into a Newcastle preview. So it feels like if we're going to maybe have more critical views on a player, what we can do for people is at least, it's kind of like a compliment sandwich, right? You say a nice thing, then you say a critical thing, then you say a nice thing. So if we're going to give you some critical comments, we have to give you something that you're really looking forward to, and that would be brands. All right? We understand what you want from us, and we give it to you. That's the best thing I could say. NordVPN is the easiest one because it's the one that everybody wants and everybody asks about. NordVPN, and I will tell you for those of you not watching on YouTube, Paul and Clive have just shut their cameras off and their mics off. That's how excited they are for the brands. NordVPN, it's an app. You put it on your iPad, you put it on your iPhone, you put it on your computer. It's very easy. You just install the app. And then when you want to watch a video that says not available in your area, you just click the area you need to be in, and now you can watch that video. If you want to watch match reviews of the day show, or you want to watch your Premier League football coverage, but you're out of the country, and so it's not going to let you VPN back, and you can watch it. So very easy to use. It also has threat protection. So if you're going on a dodgy stream or something like that, you don't have to worry about things getting installed on your computer or your tablet or whatever it is. Very easy. We have a huge discount off a NordVPN plan, plus 4 additional months on top, and there's a 30-day risk-free trial. So nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision, nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision, nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And this is a paid advertisement for BetterHelp. BetterHelp is therapy. It's that simple. If you want to go into an office and meet with a therapist in person, I highly recommend it. And it's still a great way, probably the best way to get therapy. But it is a way that requires you to find a therapist, to drive to an office, to afford the cost of doing it, to make sure that therapist is someone you're comfortable with, and then drive home. It's a commitment of time and resources that not everybody's prepared to make. And it creates what I would call friction to make the decision to start therapy. Well, I want to do therapy and it is something I'd like to try, but how do I find a therapist? It's a 25-minute drive, or it's a train ride, or it's an Uber ride. Do I want to do? What if you could just do it by flipping up the lid on your laptop, talking to a specialist in the area of need you have, or just someone who you really connect with, and you can get the ability to talk through some of the things that are weighing on you. There's a lot of negative influences right now, not just around Arsenal either. And those things can weigh on you. They build up, and then you get this buildup in your brain that's just blocking your happiness and blocking your ability to succeed. So therapy is something you should do. I've done it. I can't recommend it highly enough. And with BetterHelp, it is easy. With over 5 million people supported to date globally, BetterHelp is now available in the UK with thousands of counselors who have expertise in a wide range of specialties. With a 4.9 out of 5 rating based on over 1.7 million client reviews, BetterHelp makes counseling affordable and convenient, and you can switch counselors anytime for no cost. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/vision. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vision. BetterHelp.com/vision. Do it now. And finally, Shopify. If you want to sell a product you make and you are passionate about that, you need an e-commerce store that makes it look like you are a professional, but you're not a professional. You know what? Fortune 500 companies rely on Shopify. You can too, with a $1 per month trial, and it'll let you sell your products on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and things like that, because you can't just sell on your .com anymore. You have to sell it on social media as well. You need to understand cart optimization. You need to understand shipping. You need to understand taxes. Who understands that stuff? Not me, not you. Shopify knows. Shopify will make that easy. You write the description, you upload the pictures, you set the price, it does the rest. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase, to start selling Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Do it now, Clive. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Clive, Mikel Merino is one of those players that can get a goal out of nothing, can create a goal out of nothing. But if he's not creating a goal out of nothing or getting a goal out of nothing, suddenly it becomes very hard to connect to the player. I find him a tricky player to connect to. I admit that. And especially when he's in the midfield, and the closer he gets to his own goal, the less he looks like he's got his boots on the right feet. Can you help me understand this performance in this player? Because I've seen him score important goals. I've seen him create important goals. I've seen him win a Euros. I've seen him get the third goal against Real Madrid. And yet sometimes I watch him play and I go, what is this player? So this to me was not a great Merino performance, but I confess it's a player that I have struggled with. So help me.
Yeah, he's not easy to read. And I've said before, I don't think we on the outside see him like the manager sees him. I think he sees him as a world-class player that's tactically intelligent, that can solve a lot of things for him. And what we tend to do is we look at him on the ball and we see maybe some Doc Martens out there on occasions, and basically we think, is that what we're used to? Is that what we've grown up with? And then the ball's in the back of the net, and we go, oh, well, okay, that's all right. Okay, I'll scrap my previous analysis because you just scored, right? And but joking aside, I don't think he's easy to read. And then, but we had a bit of time to see him now, so let's have a little bit of a history lesson. So he came in last year, broke his shoulder straight away. Cheers, thanks a lot. And then he come into the team, and he looked unfit. And he played in midfield. I remember the first time he played at Bournemouth in his 10 role. Remember we played at Bournemouth, and I didn't like it. I thought we couldn't get after him, but we didn't get a lot of chance to see it because sending off, and then we end up losing the game, right? So, and then he sort of dropped into midfield. He was okay, but it's taken a while to get fit, and we were mumbling and grumbling. Then he went up front. He was all right, but then he started to score up front. Well, actually, sorry, he scored immediately, right? But he wasn't really massively impactful. But then he started to get fit, and then he became really impactful. And I started to look at him way differently. I think he was a critical player last year in our season to keep us going and keep us up there with the goals that he scored. But why I am with him now is I think you need to give him 1.5 jobs. I think you need to overwork him. And when he plays up front, I think he does the number 9 target, but he drops into a midfield role at the same time. And I think that suits him. But when you play him as the 10, we expect one job from him, and that is to do things which are a little bit easier on the eye. And I don't think that fits. In the 8, I think that's his best position for me, potentially. But again, it's a high workload position. So I think he's a high engine player. So you need to give him a lot. But when he's in the 10, I think it's not enough for him. And then he moves into areas where we don't need him to. That position is too important to our final action, to our final pass. If you're going to play the 10, you need to do it slightly differently. I was speaking to Adrian Clark about this, and he said, if he's going to do that role, he needs to almost run into be the centre forward. Do you see what I mean? Which is basically telling me, why don't you just be the centre forward rotation? We've lost one. Why don't you join that rotation again? And I thought it was, again, last night, we learned he was back in the centre forward rotation. And I think that suits him. I think it suits him because I think he can see much like when Kai does it, he can see what's required, he can see the game all behind him. He can post up to people, but he can go and smash people if we're getting overrun in midfield. Give him loads of work. What he can't do is run down the sides, obviously, although he tries. But we have people that can do that now, so we can make changes. So I think he's hard to read, and I'm not saying I'm there. Just that's my appraisal of him. But I think he's a good player, but I also think he can be a lightning rod when we're not doing so well.
Yeah, it's a weird one too, because one thing that I think is he burnished his reputation with Arsenal fans. So he arrived. Everything you've said, I agree with. And obviously his arrival did not go the way he would have wanted with the shoulder injury. But once he started playing, I think people were not particularly convinced by him necessarily. But then he burnished his reputation as a center forward, and he scored some important goals. But I think the kind of interesting thing there is if you actually look at our performances in the league during the period where he was playing center forward, they were some of our worst in years. It's just that they were coming in between the Real Madrid tie and the PSG tie, and we weren't particularly fussed about the league because it was already kind of gone. And so I don't know that we've ever, at least in the league, looked super effective with him at center forward, but he scored goals. And so people were willing to kind of shrug it off and not care. He's just a weird fit for me, And
can I just add on that, Elliot?
Yep.
He was playing a lot with Ethan and Raheem Sterling. Ethan, 17-year-old, playing on the right wing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I was desperate for him to score the goals because we had no forwards for some period last year. Literally, we had Martinelli out, Havertz out, Jesus out, and Saka out at the same time. So Mikel Merino was my favourite player at that period of the season because he was offering us something, and I think that's really important to remember that. Without him, I don't know where we would have been last year, honestly.
It's often been a distress call when Mikel Merino is playing that position where you're questioning why is he playing that position. Like against, City, Liverpool, he's playing that position because we're short a critical player and he's kind of covering for that critical player. And it was a bit the same with the... So... I don't love Mikel Merino as an 8-10 when there isn't another creative force on the pitch, because while he does a few good things, a clipped ball or a clever ball through the lines, he doesn't have the athleticism across the ground to move around that I would want in that position. Plus, when he does play an 8, it's the right 8 at the moment, and he pretty much honed his career at Real Sociedad as the left 8. I'd like him to, while we're judging him as a midfielder, I'd like to see him back in his midfield slot, the left 8, with good players around him when the team's in some kind of form. And then we'll have a conversation about whether he can be a very good midfielder for us, as well as a very good striker substitute.
Can I just say, I agreed, Paul. I think his best game so far was Forest, and he played left 8. Declan Rice was rested, remember? And I thought he was absolutely excellent. And that shout there about distress call is a really, really good one. I think maybe in our minds, because he fixes so many things, we use him that way. We use him, but then we judge him in that position. And I think that's something that's a bit unfair on him. And I thought he was okay against Port Vale. But I also thought he looked a little bit, that's me psychoanalyzing. I thought he looked a bit down and a bit flat You know, I think
Well,
he must be able to read and hear what people say about him, and I think he is a player that that maybe when we signed him we didn't understand the signing, you know, and we understand the Eze signing much more, you know, because we think we need that type of player, but I don't think we ever I say we, I'm saying the royal we here because some people are absolutely fine with him. I'm not sure we ever understood that signing, and I think he carries that burden throughout his Arsenal career so far.
well, let's be clear too. If you want to say why could he be down, I mean, he got hooked at halftime in a very, very big game in front of the world on Sunday, right? No, that's no fun. But this is the thing I would say also about why he might be a bit flat. If you ask me one of his limitations, I'd say his engine. I think he's a player who fades. And here's an interesting thing with him, not something I would have expected, but 70 minutes against Liverpool at Anfield on August 31st. 4 days later, 90 minutes for Spain. 3 days later, 90 minutes for Spain. 6 days later, 90 minutes for Arsenal. 3 days later, 90 minutes for Arsenal. 5 days later, 45 minutes for Arsenal. 3 days later, 70 minutes for Arsenal. He's playing a lot. He's playing a lot. And that is not the cadence of what he was doing. So I think he's someone who you can see when he's not fresh. He just doesn't travel over the ground that well.
Can I say one thing I forgot what I was going to say earlier on? Sorry. Much like Saliba signing the contract is an indicator of where we're going as a club, because we're all positive about that. I think sometimes when Merino plays, he's an indicator of negativity. And I think that's, we carry that in our outward, and the outward world looks at him and says, he's a defensive midfielder. We're being negative, right? We are trying to connect with him. Is he better as a 9 or is he better as a left 8? We think we're pretty conclusive now. We don't really want you to be the 10, you know, because I think of the 3 positions, that's not your best, you know, unless you play it in a more aggressive style, in a front 2 almost. So I think he's become an indicator in a negative way. And so as soon as you see his name on the team sheet, there are connotations with it now, which is a shame, right? So, but it's the truth, isn't it? It's got to be true. That's what people are thinking, right? So,
but this is a funny thing. Look, you don't have to like the player. You don't have to like any player. Forget like. You don't have to. You don't have to rate the player, because like isn't fair. We like everybody who plays for Arsenal. We want to root for them, but like, he's not defensive. I mean, where's he worst? He's worst in his own half. That's where he gets trapped. We did the City rewatch. He gets trapped in his own half. He got trapped in his own half again in this game. What's his best contribution in this game? He plays a beautiful little first-time ball into Eze running across the box, and Eze has a shot straight at the keeper. So it's just the type of player. He's very hard to read. I want to move on from it, though, because there's one other thing I think we're discussing here. And, Paul, when I saw the lineup, I was hoping it'd be Eze on the left, Merino in midfield with Ethan and Norgard, and Martinelli through the middle. Because I think there is a question, especially based on his last 2 sub-appearances and the way he's scored his goals, if Martinelli might be an effective player for us through the middle. Now, look, with Nani Madueke playing off the left and Eze playing off the left and Leo playing off the left, it would be sensible to want to find maybe a new home for Martinelli as a positional option, but Nani is now out for somewhere between a month or 2. So maybe he's more back in that mix, but he was playing from the left. And unfortunately, as opposed to the last couple of heroic appearances, it looked a little bit more familiar as a Martinelli left-sided appearance, which is simply he got the ball in space, isolated at times, and just wasn't super effective at beating his man. So are you disappointed we didn't get to see him more at center forward? Because this looked, unfortunately, just a little bit familiar to me.
Yeah, I was the same when I saw the lineup. I just jumped immediately to, this. We got Eze, we got Saka. This could be Martinelli through the middle. My dream kind of reinvention of Martinelli's late-stage Arsenal career at the age of 24 or 25. And so, yeah, that was my first thought. But I don't think that's where the managers... I see no indication that that's what the manager thinks of him. And, like, I guess we're fine with him doing that from left wing, making those runs in behind. That can be a very nice angle to attack a slightly higher than it should be back line for him to make a diagonal, or for him to cheat centrally. And like what we need, the second option, if we're not going to play him at striker, is to have more fluidity, more rotation on the left-hand side. And look, Gyokeres likes to peel out to the left. So Martinelli can rotate with him. Eze is super smart. He can peel out to the left. He can play left winger at times, but he can also be the left 8 who steps out to the left while Martinelli moves inside. What we need to unlock, because yes, you're right, Elliot, to jump to your point, this was outside of the clever goal and one or two other moments, the clever cut cross. This was a classic Martinelli, even Port Vale. The Newcastle of League One managed to completely bottle him up on our left wing, right? I mean, they pretty much, for a lower league team, and part of that's confidence, blah blah blah. Who cares? That's where he's at the moment. Teams do not feel uncomfortable when they see Martinelli on the left wing. It should not always be so, right? If you have, say, Eze, or other smart players, Calafiori learning to find him, they can start to move it around. Martinelli clearly needs other players around him to help unlock him. I know that it irritates some people, but it seems to be certainly where we are at the moment. And if they can develop the kind of relationship between Gyokeres, Eze, for example, and Martinelli, where he isn't always on the outside, they don't always know the pattern they're going to face against him, and he can peel inside and make runs, get inside, make those runs inside. We may see more of what I think, to your eye, my eye, and Clive's eyes, is one of his absolute killer powers, which is that run in behind, the intensity, the directness. He had a great opportunity in this game that got snuffed out by I think the keeper did great, came out really early, must have learned from the Man City game, right? You think they went back and watched Man City? You think they saw Martinelli probably starting? You think they thought, Jesus, if that ball comes out of the top, over the top, you do not hang back as goalkeeper? It was halfway down the pitch clearing that one out. So they learned.
I love the subtle ways you sneak in ways to just praise Clive and get on his good side. To your eye, to my eye, to Clive's eyes, right? Like, because we only have one eye to watch football, but he has two eyes.
You're literally squinting at the moment. People, go back and look at the video.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I have the least amount of eyes. That much is clear about football. I don't want to go too much further on Martinelli, because I think if we're going to say it's a low intensity game where players weren't absolutely at their peak exertion, then it's unfair to then not give that, not excuse, but give that grace to every player. Because Saka, no shots, one chance created, 1 of 4 on dribbles, the most playing within himself performance you'll ever see. When he did get stomped on, the hard tackle on the top of his foot, I admit I briefly lost my mind. I don't know why he's steaming into that challenge. He needs to be smarter. We need to be smarter. But like Mikel was very clear to say he wasn't injured at the end of the game, as if to say, like, don't be mad at me for playing him. He needed an hour. We planned for him for an hour and he's fine. But with Martinelli, no shots, no chances created, 1 of 3 on dribbles. It just, let's put it this way. With any player, you bring your priors in, and our priors about him as a left wing option have some of those kind of performances in them, so it looked a bit familiar. I don't think we have to go much further on it. Clive, just a quick word on it so we can talk Max and move on to Newcastle.
Quick one. Well, Martinelli recognised the other game of the weekend when he jumped out the way of the keeper, by the way, which I think is a very smart thing to do. You have your career ahead of your son. But this Martinelli centre forward thing, I like the idea of a late forward option, somebody that can come on late and do that there. I also feel that physically it's something that you don't want him posting up in there. I still like him off the wide areas, but I want him to travel. And if he travels, what people do on occasions is you take a snapshot of where he has a good touch and a good finish, and you think, well, he should play there then. Well, actually, he may not have started to run from there. He started to run from wide areas and ended up in the centre forward position. I do think he has some centre forward striking instincts that we may need to try to invest in a little bit more. The way to do that is to get him to be a free wide man. We're going to play against one at the weekend, Ante Elanga. Although he runs in straight lines, he travels. He travels across the line as well, and he uses his attributes, which is his speed. And I think we need to do the same with Martinelli to get the best out of him.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think of Max?
Well, that clip into Gyokeres, mate, they barely met each other. And they're already on a... Seriously, if you watch that clip, just re-watch it again. As the ball's coming in, they know what each other are going to do.
Dowman is almost playing the pass before it gets to him.
Yeah.
He's so ahead of that.
And Gyokeres is already leaning forward, getting into his running. I'm thinking, hold on, mate, this is a kid, right? And he just met this bloke, and he's new to the club. I'm learning what he does, and he's worked it out in literally 3 minutes on the pitch. He needs first time balls round the corner. Thank you very much. Do you know what I mean? It really is freaky intelligent. And then the execution is great, but we've grown used to that now because he's talented. But for me, it's the intelligence to work out what your teammates need. That's a lot going on in a young man's head. It really is. And I saw a little note last night saying he makes the game look easy. We all sit there, we watch him, we think, well, if you do that, that'd be the right thing to do. And he just sort of does it. I think, bloody hell, he's only 15. But he also looks really quick across the ground, and we're just very lucky to have him, aren't we? We're very lucky to have him in our club. His development is going to be something that's going to keep us pinned to our seats for at least five years. What's he going to be like in 2 years? You know, he's going to be changing contractual situations at the club. He really is. He's going to be that good if he continues this development. And the manager's speaking about him in a way, he's really been transparent about him, about what they have to do to support him in his studies, how they get around him, how the teammates feel about him, how he's going through training. I'm a press conference nerd. I listen to every single one and I watch them. And you learn a lot through them. And he's really talking about him in a way which is letting us know about this guy. You know, and I've always been conservative about talking about young players because you need to see how they develop and you don't put too much pressure on them. And we have a responsibility on this platform not to be stupid with young men, but he is very, very talented, and he is an exception. And that's one of the best ways to describe him, I think. He's an exception to the rule in so many different ways.
I want to read you some of the stuff from the pre-Port Vale presser, Clive, because I think we have to keep this in mind. He is 15. He only played with kids. He only trained with kids, right? That was his life. Went to school, trained with kids, played with kids. Now he is training with men. He is playing with men. His physical preparation is that of a man, even though he is a boy. And his life is changing. And so Mikel was asked on how to find minutes for Max and how to find that balance. And Mikel said, learning from him probably, first of all, preparing and having a very good understanding of his new situation and all the things that are different in his life. So we need to change his times. We need to change his education, probably his allocation and where he is with his family. His diet is different. His sleep patterns become different. The training load is different. The amount of information, pressure, and exposure is different. So we have to manage a lot of factors. Into that, you add a lot of minutes with very different teams as well. We need to be cautious. And that's what we're trying to do in the best possible way to find the balance to keep Max as connected as possible with the first team, because he's undoubtedly a player that can help the first team. That's a really good reminder of all the things changing. His sleep, his body, his diet. You know, at 15, I'm checking in the mirror every day to see if there's a hair somewhere. I mean, this has got to start sometime, right? This guy's got a mustache and he's playing with men, right? It is incredible what he's trying to do, but he is a child. He is a child. And so there are going to be childish things he does on the pitch, by the way, right? It's, oh, he should have given the ball. Why is he trying to dribble that guy? Because he's 15. And so I think his talent is prodigious and impossible to ignore, and he can help the first team. But his life is changing in a stunning way. And when you go through that much change at once, I just think you have to be really, really careful. Can a 15-year-old body play 90 minutes against men? No, I don't think it can. Can a 15-year-old body go into the gym and do the same squats and the same curls and the same shoulder press that men can? No, and it's not even supposed to. So you've got to be really careful not to expect him and his body and his brain to be what it needs to be as an adult. And the talent is going to tell you it can be. But who he is and where he is in life is very different. So a little bit of caution. He turned 16 in December. Then I think we should expect him to start games. And if he isn't, we have to ask questions about the manager. Kidding.
All the games.
Oh, yeah, all the games. Okay. But yeah, really exciting. Again, I mean, the talent gets you dreaming, but all things in good time. Paul, Newcastle is a tough game for us wherever we play it. And at St. James's Park, it's particularly tough. They're not exactly in rip-roaring form. I don't think they're the best team, but they've shown they can be fearsome. I mean, even without a striker and without Gordon against Liverpool with 10 men, they battered Liverpool a bit. They are always going to be up for the physical contest. That much we know. And the refs are always going to let them be up for the physical contest. Bruno and Joelinton in particular. So it is a tough one because you need to pick a team that doesn't get bullied. But I think you need to pick a team that can hurt that compact, big, muscular team that they put out. They have had a real tough time this season scoring goals, but they're always going to be pretty decent at blocking your path to scoring. So do you have a lineup in mind, an approach in mind? Because this gets pretty close to what we'd call quote unquote must-win territory.
Yeah, so the challenge for us is we can match them physically. I mean, this is a big, beefy, huge Arsenal team.
Yep.
The challenge is we can't lean into that too much. We got to play more football than them, quite a bit more football than them. So that is the challenge. The lineup, I mean, the questions all start with, is Martin Odegaard available, fit, ready to go? Because if he's not, what your midfield is kind of maybe has knock-on effects for everything else. And could look like a lot like what we did against Man City. Now, I'd lean into Eze off the left. Like if I'm thinking of an Odegaard-less lineup, it'd be Eze off the wing, have Rice, maybe do a little bit more left 8ing than he did against Man City, at least to my eye. I know we all see that game very differently at the moment. We're still working out what the Man City game really meant, but I want to see more Declan Rice as kind of the attacking threat on the left-hand side for the time being. If we're going to play Merino off the right, and I can't see how you're going to line up against Newcastle with Nwaneri. That doesn't seem like a great matchup for him, at least not from the starting lineup. Then if we're going without Odegaard, then I'd want to see more Rice plus Merino, and Eze off the wing to give us a little extra sauce. Or I'll take a left 8 of Eze and Martinelli off the wing. And, they've got good wingers on their side, and there's work to be done. Maybe you have Trippier on that side or the other side. So there's definitely defensive work to be done by our options. So kind of that's where my thoughts go in this game in terms of, but if we got Odegaard, lean into Odegaard.
In case you're wondering what Eberechi Eze can do at St. James's Park, last season in his trip to St. James's Park, he missed a penalty and got hooked after 56 minutes in a 5-0 loss. So not the best experience there for him. Clive, what's the approach? How do we handle a place that has not been a happy hunting ground for us?
Yeah, whenever we've won there, we scored first. I think that's really key. Probably one of the only games I've not seen either live in the ground or live on TV was the Newcastle away, the Jorginho game, right? And I never saw it, but I heard all the discourse afterwards, and there was a real feeling amongst you guys who watched it live and go through the nerves, etc., that maybe a more slower technical approach, slowing the game down, slowing the crowd down, it seemed to work on that day. I mean, you tell me, guys, you watched it, and that stayed in my mind, that has. And I felt when we haven't focused early in the game, we could see the first goal. It's become a mid-block, low-block game, and it's been about us scoring against them, trying to recover a game, and we've not been able to. But in the games where we've scored early, we've been able to come out there with some points, right? So I think the first goal is really, really key. I'm of the opinion you got two choices, right? You go into an arm wrestle or you go into a football match. And I think this is a time for a football match, to own the possession. Mm-hmm. If we do exactly what we did against Port Vale, I know it sounds crazy, right? But I know I'm talking like similarities. Own the ball, score early, own the ball, score late, 2-0. Exactly the same. Bring them on, move them around, slow the crowd down. If we do that, if we do what we did in Bilbao, same thing, same type of play, but obviously you've got to score. You've got to score to get people off you, to get people out of shape. Eddie Howe's really good at shape play. You know, he can do it, mate. He can go 5-4-1, he can go 4-5-1, and he's really aggressive. Newcastle is like his own ecosystem. They play football of the 80s and the referees get swept up in it and they can smash through people. So what's wrong with you, ref? He's still got his head on his shoulders. That can't be a yellow. It feels like that type of environment. And the referees get swept along. You've got to get 8 tackles before you get a booking. Right? So I think it's important to slow people down. This is going to be at the 4:30 Sunday time. For those people in the UK, that means plenty of drinking time before the game. Newcastle is a wonderful city, and they're going to come into that ground ready to go to turn the volume up. Us and Liverpool are the 2 most hated clubs as far as they're concerned. Oh, Sunderland as well, sorry. And they're going to bring their best game for us, their A game. Their atmosphere is going to be hot. So if I'm the manager, I've got to cool it down. I've got to say to my players, this isn't a must-win. It's all about the next pass, the next touch, the execution. It's just a game of football. Take it in small chunks. Don't make it bigger than what it is. You do this every single week. You don't. Now, to us guys now, we don't want to be 8 points behind Liverpool. So it's a must-win. But we could be 2 points behind them if it doesn't go right for them on the weekend. We'll know a lot more before the game kicks off. So I think it's about being really calm, looking after the football, staying connected while offering a threat. Don't let them see you staying in areas too long, but they're going to press you, they're going to get after you, move them about, go over the top, get after it, play in the areas you want to play, but do it with purpose. So that's what I would do.
Yeah. They have struggled to score goals this season. They have not been a great attacking force. They have 3 goals, I think, in the league this season. They've been held to nil 3 times. One of their goals came against Wolves that they scraped by 1-0. We know they got 2 against Liverpool. Weird game. Yeah. It is a really tricky one because you can go into this game being so concerned about their physicality that you don't play your technical players, and then you're just in a fight. And they're not going to lose a fight. You know, you may be able to fight with them, but they're not going to lose a fight. They've got giants at the back line. They've got giants in midfield. Can we win that? Can we fight with them with Merino and Rice? Can Gyokeres go bang shoulders? Of course we can. You know, we have the players to do it. But I just think that's the wrong approach. I think
it's the game they want.
That's
right?
the game they want. Yeah, and I get it, because if you look at it, you say we can't afford to get bullied by them. But we can be more technical than they are. You know, we can play quicker, play first time, dribble them. I mean, if you put Eze out on the left against Kieran Trippier can't stop Eze off the dribble. His feet don't move fast enough. You know, Bukayo Saka is going to have to be good in this game. Your best players have to play well. The one that I think, Paul, I'm a little nervous about is Gyokeres. They got big, strong center backs, and I don't know if he's going to be able to move them or run them. And I'll be very curious to see if Mikel gives Gyokeres this game. I don't love to say it, but I think there's a chance Mikel Merino starts at center forward again. To have wall passes and combinations and win duels and press from the front. Because I think the ball can be taken off them. I think they're poor playing out from the back if they even try. Do you have any similar thoughts on that, what he might do with center forward? I mean, Gyokeres, just so we're clear, I'm not giving up on the guy, but this is tough. These are the big center backs that'll bang you around. You got to be able to run them all game and move them, you know?
I understand your concern. I think it'd be a very tough call for the manager to pull Gyokeres for this game, because kind of everybody would know what it meant that he's not there yet for this kind of game, that he's not being a difference maker. So I think if you're looking for that, you better wait till 60, 70 minutes if the Gyokeres thing hasn't happened. I mean, people just want to play the best team for the game. I totally get that. But you're still building a season. You've brought in this high dollar, high pound player, high profile, lots of media coverage about this guy. Like, imagine the headlines writing themselves if Gyokeres doesn't start. And then on the other side of it, you got to back the guy and give him the tools around him. You know, the things we said about Merino, to some degree, we all agree that our attack isn't joined up yet. and we're currently judging Gyokeres on how well he's playing when we're not really connecting with him yet. And the only way to fix that is to get him into games and to, can we get Odegaard to start? Can we get some connectivity? Can we get Eze off the wing? Would you play both? I don't know. That's a lot of sauce in the same game. But you need one or the other on the pitch, I think. That was my biggest concern against Man City. I wanted a little more sauce from somewhere on the pitch. And, but get Gyokeres more sauce around him in terms of clever players finding passes for him. Don't give Merino too much to do as a kind of, he's our attacking 8 and our only 8 between the lines, and the other 2 midfielders are deeper. Like, give the attacking half of the pitch more to work with, then start to judge Gyokeres a little more. So, but I do recognize the concern. Like, if I were the manager, though, I'd be very, very slow to pull him for this game if I thought there was a way to make it work.
Clive?
Yeah, I actually think this is a game that might suit him. I think it's very important that Newcastle don't know what we're going to do attacking-wise. So if they know we're playing Mikel Merino, what happens there, Elliot, is they know we can't run in behind. And so they're going to squeeze up on us and they're going to compress us and make it a tear up, right? If we have the ability to run in behind, they're going to have to respect that. And what Gyokeres has done, and for me, I'm not worried yet about his execution because he's got the goals. I can say he's got 3 goals this season. So that keeps people at bay just about, right? But he needs to move and he needs to threaten. And while he's doing that, you know what's happening? That means 2 centre-backs are pinned to him. You know what that means? There's a potential of our wide men getting in one-on-ones. If we play Mikel Merino there, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go one-on-one with him. And they're going to move people forward. And that's what happened at Anfield when Gyokeres faded. We didn't have the ability to change. They went man for man at the back and then dropped into midfield and had their 10 minutes of joy and scored within it. Right? So we need to keep them back. And if by keeping them back and pinning 2 centre-backs, that means Saka can go one-on-one on occasion if we get there quick enough. Eze, for me, goes one-on-one if we get there quick enough. And I don't mean one-on-one running on the outside, because Trippier wants that on his right foot. He wants to go, or Livramento. With those players, you got to trick them and come inside and combine inside. And Eze's great at that. I'm looking forward for the day when we see Odegaard, Eze and Saka in the team, because the conversation will change. Because people will not be talking about access and creativity and things like that.
Yeah.
Because those 3 guys can look after the football. And Newcastle have to respect that. And so you need a guy at the top who can benefit from their ingenuity on the football. So I think this is Gyokeres' game. I really feel that strongly. He's quite traditional as a centre forward against a traditional English team that defend that way. He needs to run those channels, mate, and work that team back into areas that we like, and then hopefully help us get that first goal.
It's, I assume, going to be Calafiori at left back. Miles, I thought was really good against Port Vale, but he played the whole game, and I think that's a bit of a nod to Calafiori just getting the night off. I don't think Timber's fit, and so I think that there's a potential that he'll miss the game at Newcastle. Obviously, he didn't play against Port Vale, but he was on the bench, which I think is a bit of misdirection. I think there's a chance Ben White might have to play this game, and I thought it was a mixed performance from White. I'll stay with you just for a second, Clive. If Timber can't make it, is it going to be Ben White or is it going to be Mascara?
Mascara, mate. Mascara.
You don't think it'll be White then? That'd be a big knock for Ben White. I mean, I'll level with you.
He's not there yet.
He's not there. He's not ready. He's not ready. And this is why these games are really important. If Mascara plays, don't forget we've got Olympiacos. I know it's not important, right? Because the league is important. If Olympiacos, we trip over ourselves, we've got other chances to get back in. But Mascara is a raw defender. They'll have Anthony Gordon back, I believe, for this game.
I think so, yeah.
Timber can handle him if he's fit. I think I was actually pleased to see him on the bench, Elliot, despite the rumours, because that must mean he's all right. But if Timber's right, I think he plays.
Yeah. Oh, if he's right, he plays. I'm 50-50 on it. Is what I would say.
Anything. It's just rumours, right? So let's see.
Yeah, fair point.
If he's fit, he'll play. And I know they've got Alanga on the other side of the pitch, and no one can keep up with him, let alone Calafiori, right? So, but what you don't want to do is get into races. It's not about Alanga; it's about Gabriel. It's about Gabriel and how he covers that space, how aggressive we are in those areas, and how we don't allow him to turn down. You cut those things off at source. That's what you do, right? So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I would go the normal back four. It's pretty good statistically. It's the best, and I just want to see the big three creators behind the centre forward, and then Newcastle see that team sheet, and they will have to have a chat before kickoff. They're going to have to have a chat about what they're going to do to stop us. And that's what you want. You don't want a team sheet to come out again like it did at Man City when their chat would have been a bit more positive than it would have been if certain other players were playing.
Yeah. And look, maybe Timber will play. I'd say this. Mascara was, again, great at center back. What a player. When he moved to right back, made a couple of small mistakes. Like, right back's a different position, and it has different demands. And suddenly you're running with guys like Anthony Gordon. And, you know,
He ends up playing in a 3, though, won't we, Elliot? You know, we drop into a 3-2, and then Calafiori can then properly stay in there. And then we have the Mosquera, Saliba, Gabriel back 3, and that's our base from which to play. And I like it.
Our right back has a role with our exits where you got to be careful about how you pass the ball, because the right back is sometimes, playing those little...
You know what? It's a really good shout. I watched the game. Sorry to keep talking, lads, but if you looked at that game, look at Miles' position versus White's position. I thought Miles' ability to receive the ball was really good by the way he faced the game. Ben was wanting to get on the run all the time. And he wasn't a target from which to find. I thought he started a bit higher than he needed to. You know, he could have received it and travelled rather than try to receive it on the gallop. Yeah. You know, and I thought he was just his spacing was wrong for me. But once he gets it, he's a good player, right? And when he started the game sharp. And then he faded. Guess what? He's hardly played this calendar year, right? So yeah, I think we just need to wait for Ben White to come back.
Someone needs to tell Zubamendi what to expect and just say, look, Joe Linton's going to munch you. The first 10 minutes, he's gonna munch you like crazy, and there are going to be no calls, and you just have to live with it. That's how it's going to be, because they're going to want to test him. Declan Rice has to be big in this game. We need a more prominent Declan Rice, I think, to be at our best. They have an away game against Union SG, Union Sangawas or whatever, in the Champions League in midweek. They lost to Barcelona. They played well, but they lost. This is going to be one of those Champions League fixtures that they should win if they want to try to get through. So Eddie Howe has a bit of a challenge, and I do think, to your point, Clive, if we can score early, and if we're on top in the game, he's going to have to make a business decision about what he's prioritizing. But Paul, I hate to ask this question because it feels a little bit sort of mainstream media narrative-y, but it is worth asking. How important are 3 points in this game? Look, Liverpool have Palace at the weekend. Of course, Palace is going to be without critical players, of course. But that's just football. Liverpool did, by the way, lose their young center back Giovanni to an ACL, which is terrible to see. He's a kid, and you hate to see that. And I'm not trying to be facetious, but like, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I wouldn't be encouraged by Liverpool losing a key player for a little while, but seeing a kid get an ACL that's never a good thing. So, we wish him the best in his recovery. But they play first, we play second, and if they can get an 8-point gap on us as we go to St. James's Park, it's going to feel very must-winny. I'll be clear, I don't regard it as a must-win. I do not think there is any gap in September you can't recover. An 8-point gap sounds big. It is not that big in September. We recovered a bigger gap 2 seasons ago when they had their collapse. They were more than 8 points away, and I think they were 8 points away in January, and we wound up finishing above them a couple seasons ago. So, again, I'm not saying, so it's fine if we lose. That's not my point. My point is I don't regard any game as a must-win, but I certainly would be sympathizing with anyone who feels staring at October coming and an 8-point gap would be a very unpleasant place for us to be given our expectations. So how do you parse that?
Yeah, there needs to be another term for this kind of game. I don't know what it is. Must-winny-ish, somewhat. Is there a spectrum here? The thing is, it doesn't spectrum. It fits into certain categories. It's like this would be a little bit of a statement that we're for real, we're on it. And to your point, we'll have other chances to make statements, but you don't get that many in the season. So it's really, really important, right? Would we all agree 3 points here is really, really important? But no, anything can happen. It's bloody September, lads. We got 7 interlulls between now and the end of the season.
Super. Thanks for that.
There are a lot of turning points where you either go on a hot run or you can go on a cold one for all competence in this race. But like, you want to set out your stall at this stage of the season. We kind of haven't. We're still delaying setting out our stall, and this would be. This game has a lot more on it than 3 points in terms of our title challenge.
Clive, you get the final word of the pod. Is it a must win? And how many people get sacked if we don't
win? You make me laugh. I think if it was a World Cup final, I sort of with you, Elliot. I feel as though, and I felt this for the City game, it's time. Come on, lads. It's time to show who we are. Come on. And that feeling is in a lot of people. And then we go and play City, and I thought we did fine, but obviously we didn't quite have the right team at the start of the game, but we recovered it. Port Vale, come on, just show everybody. Let's go and beat them 5-0. Then you see, oh my God, this is a glorified training session. Okay. Got Newcastle. Come on, lads, this is it now. Let's go and take her. Let's go and show everybody. And I had that feeling inside of me. I think Saturday will be interesting because obviously when Liverpool play Palace, we'll know where we are. So we come after them. But it would be nice to bring them back closer to us. Would be nice. It's felt as though we've been at arm's length for quite a while now against Liverpool. I think there's a lot more serenity around their environment. There's a lot more calm around their environment. I feel really sorry for that kid. Imagine coming to a new country, just playing your first sort of game and doing that. Awful, right? Awful. So I wish him all the best.
Timber. I mean, he wasn't a kid, but you just hate to see it.
Awful. So I wish him all the best. So, but I want us to put us under pressure. So I think it's a very important game, Elliot. The light is shining on Arsenal Football Club, whether we like it or not. Doesn't matter how sanguine we are. It doesn't matter if there's 55 games to go this season. The light is shining. What do you do in that scenario? Do you react desperately, or do you stick to your process and play the game that's on offer? And that's all I want to see, because that's the same for every game.
Yeah, for me, I'm so easy to read, right? I want to see us have the capacity to hurt them. You can't decide what flies in the net, right? We could create 10 big chances, miss them all. They could have one free kick at the death, and it goes in off our defender, and you lose 1-0. I want to see us start to show, especially away from home, that we can play some football that generates some chances. It is the case for me that I know we are good defensively. I know organization is good, and I know we're going to be right there in the last stages of the Champions League, and we're probably going to be right there contesting the league late. I just don't see any way around that because I think we're too good for most teams, and with the run we have coming up in October, it's a chance for me to be proven right or wrong, by the way. If in some ways we knew this was a big start to the season, October is the real season in the sense that it's a chance for us to see, can we run the course, right? Liverpool away, City at home, Newcastle away. Those games can go either way. But can you run the course when you're playing the other teams? So far, Leeds, Forest, 8-0. It's fine. But let me just say this. Going into this run before the season, I think I said the bar was 14 points. And I didn't want us to lose to City or Liverpool. So I thought, get a win at Old Trafford, get a win over Leeds, get a win over Forest, get a win over Newcastle, and draw Liverpool and City. And I would accept that. Obviously, more than 14 would be great, but I felt 14 was sort of the bar. The most we can now get is 13. 13's not far from 14, so I think that's okay. But 10 or 11, you're starting to lose ground on where you need to be at this stage. In a race, in a marathon, if you're competing and you want to win it, you have stages of the race, and you say, here's the time I want to be at this stage. Here's the time I need to be at this stage. At this pole of this race, I wanted us to be at 14 or better points. The most we can be is 13. So we've given up a little ground. But if we're at 10, we're behind that quarter pole, right? We're behind the time we need to be in the race at this stage.
Elliot, we're running negative splits.
Yeah,
it's going to be fine.
No, we're good. Okay, let's leave it there. An hour, 33 minutes is enough. Tomorrow we're going to do a rewatch of the Port Vale game. No. We're going to do Friday Night
halves.
Clive, and you're going to join us. Yeah, both halves of the Port Vale game. And Sunday after Newcastle, we're preempting the instant reaction to do a rewatch again of the Port Vale game. And I thought Tim's voice note, by the way, was great. He said, you know what? People getting worked up about this. You're not going to remember this game next season, just like you can't remember our game against Bolton last season. And I thought, we played Bolton last season? And I had to look it up, and he's right. We did. I had no recollection of that. So this one gets filed away. We've got Brighton in the next round. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. Sunday's instant reaction is going to be a blast, and you're not going to want to miss it because Liverpool dropping points to Palace and us walloping Newcastle is one you're going to want to be a part of. So please join. AVP50 is the code if you want to do it for a couple of quid and see what you think. Paul, thank you very much.
Woohoo,
Thanks.
Elliot.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that you haven't mentioned the new programming feature after Clive's Friday with Clive.
Friday Night Clive.
Friday Night Clive, who knows. Straight after that, listeners, we have... what are you doing? We have Paint Me Like One of Your French Ladies with Paz and Elliot.
Knew something was coming. Join us for that. You know what? We'll do it. We'll just do that. We'll do it. We'll do like a Bob Ross style adult painting session with Paul and myself. Clive, please end the podcast.
Paul's a wonder.
My name's Elliot Smith. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Newcastle 0.